It felt like another world. It seems that was. Hearing him, I approached him and said I wanted to join this band. He helped define American blues rock as a bassist. A Texas native, he and Stevie Ray Vaughan revitalized a genre many thought was dead with the 1962 Fender Jazz. If you think Tommy Shannon's life was only a few recordings and tours with Double Trouble, you're missing a story more dramatic than his bass lines. He was an addict who crashed on the road, did construction because he couldn't play music, walked through recovery with his only wife, and returned to the stage to prevent losing himself. This is Tommy Shannon's path. Not only a great bassist, but a quiet symbol of resurrection, loyalty, and music that endured. A tale untold till now. Early life. Tommy Shannon was born in Tucson, Arizona, on April 18, 1946, to a working-class American family as Thomas Lafitte Smedley, the only child. He came to Dumas, Texas, at 9 years old with his parents to build a better life in the vast agricultural plains. Tommy's calmness originated from Dumas, distant from big cities. Tommy has few significant childhood losses or tragedies. His family wasn't destitute, but they couldn't support artistic talent. At local public schools, he showed little academic promise. He never attended college or studied music. In that simplicity, a gentle love of music grew. Tommy started playing guitar in the early 1950s because of rock and roll, like many American youths. Bass intrigued him, though. He once described that low, steady, grounding sound as keeping everything together. He played in the Avengers, his first band, at Texas Panhandle gatherings and schools at 13. No one in his family was artistic, but no one stopped him. Tommy supported himself by working in electrical, construction, and mechanical systems in addition to music. These encounters taught more than life skills. They taught him perseverance and quiet work, traits that shaped his career. Tommy Shannon wasn't destined for fame. Perhaps that's why his bass lines didn't demand attention when they anchored Johnny Winter and Stevie Ray Vaughan's sounds. Strong, devoted, and indispensable, they kept everything together. Early career. Tommy Shannon's music career began in the early 1960s during Texas blues and rock revival. He played bass in various Austin and Dallas bands before being recruited to join Johnny Winter's band in 1968, one of the most explosive blues guitarists of the time. Tommy was Winter's most trusted bassist, unlike many background players. He shaped Johnny's early recordings like the Progressive Blues Experiment and Second Winter with his sturdy, fluid sound. Tommy soon gained fame with Johnny Winter, performing at the 1969 Woodstock Festival, which few know about. Early fame had a downside. Shannon's heroin addiction began in the 1970s, a tragically frequent road for blues performers. He quit Johnny Winter and began abusing drugs after years of touring and recording. Music career stalled. Invitations to perform decreased. Tommy returned to Texas to live quietly and make bricklay after the studio closed. At one point, he was in rehab and on probation, which prohibited him from performing. Tommy Shannon was banned from playing outside his home after performing at Woodstock. Many thought it was the end, but he persisted. In the early 1980s, he practiced his old bass despite poverty and obscurity, a way to cherish his remains. His calm perseverance spared him from obscurity and ultimately to a fateful encounter. Tommy Shannon had performed at Woodstock and recorded with Johnny Winter, but it wasn't until he met Stevie Ray Vaughan that his music and soul completely united. The meeting occurred in 1981 in Austin, Texas, a blues revival city. Shannon played in small local bands to support himself after years of addiction. He entered the Soap Creek Saloon one night and heard a teenage guitarist perform music that silenced the bar, as if witnessing something strange. The guitarist was Stevie Ray Vaughan. Tommy froze. He had played with the finest, but he had never seen anyone make a guitar scream for aid and mumble a confession. He asked Stevie to jam the next day. No words needed. Single session enough. Both felt they had found what most artists spend a lifetime seeking: an irreplaceable musical connection. Stevie, drummer Chris Layton, and subsequently keyboardist Reese Winans formed Double Trouble, which became highly creative. Their 1983 debut album, Texas Flood, recorded in a few days at Jackson Browne Studio in LA, shattered the Billboard synth-pop haze. Pride and Joy rose in the charts, but Texas Flood, the dark, sorrowful title track, showed they were playing to survive. Tommy never needed fame. He played bass in the rear, often with his eyes closed, as if praying during music. I played to ground Stevie, he said. I had to anchor him to the ground because he couldn't hold back. The albums followed. I Hated the Weather, 1984, Cold Shot and Tin Pan Alley showed they were not a one-hit wonder. Soul to Soul, 1985. Featuring funk and gospel, the band's sound is changing. Stevie fell into alcohol and cocaine addiction during this time. Tommy, who had overcome addiction, saw himself in Stevie's lifeless eyes. Both bottomed out. Tommy went to rehab. Stevie followed soon after. They were no longer crazy musicians seeking highs when they reconnected. Two men who nearly died grabbed up their instruments to survive. Step, 1989, their return album, was about atonement as much as music. Tightrope symbolized life-death balance. Denial Wall was a heartfelt confession. Tommy's deep, steady bass pulsated throughout. Double Trouble toured with Eric Clapton in summer 1990. They performed their last gig at Wisconsin's Alpine Valley Music Theater on August 26. Stevie left the stage after a Sweet Home Chicago conclusion with Clapton, Buddy Guy, Jimmy Vaughan, and Robert Cray. Thick fog hung the night. Stevie replaced Jimmy on the first helicopter owing to space constraints. Tommy skipped that flight. At 1 a.m., August 27th saw a helicopter crash into a hillside. All 5 passengers died instantly. Jimmy Vaughan and Eric Clapton identified the bodies. However, Tommy Shannon endured the void longest, losing a bandmate and a friend who dragged him out of the depths. After that night, he was quiet for months. No performances, interviews, or public appearances. Tommy returned to music. In 1992, he formed Archangels with Chris Layton, Doyle Bramhall II, and Charlie Sexton, a fresh blues rock band inspired by Austin. They weren't replacing Stevie. They carried on his legacy. Tommy joined Storyville in 1994 with Double Trouble members and 2 Subdudes musicians. Neither endeavor was as successful as Stevie Ray Vaughan, but both were commended for their sincerity. Tommy continued to record, play, and support younger artists like Kenny Wayne Shepherd, Susan Tedeschi, and Joe Bonamassa. There was no need to tour for months or chase the spotlight this time. He intervened not to shine, but to keep the fire alive, music real, and blues alive. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted him in 2015 together with Chris Layton, Reese Winans, and Stevie Ray Vaughan. Tommy remarked, "Stevie saved me from myself, and his music saves people today." That's Tommy Shannon. Instead of sticking out, he was always the one that kept things together and carried the heartbeat of Texas blues. Personal life during Double Trouble's peak years, when the spotlight was on him everywhere, Tommy Shannon avoided hedonism and rock industry romances. In 1986, he married modest, reticent Kumi, a showbiz outsider. The wedding was barely mentioned by the band. During Tommy's most tumultuous years, it was his strongest anchor. Because while Double Trouble was growing famous, Tommy and Stevie were silently falling into addiction. Cocaine, heavy liquor, and useless nights became regular. It was the stage for Stevie. Tommy played bass in the darkness backstage, his hands trembling from withdrawal. But Kumi led him into recovery by the hand. They went together. They entered an Austin treatment center in late 1986, choosing to fight addiction together. Tommy added, "I wouldn't have survived without her. When I wanted to quit, Kumi reminded me I had survived worse and the music was still waiting." The decision to undergo rehab jointly saved his life and dignity. Many artists had fallen and been forgotten. Tommy was sober since 1987 and never relapsed. He stayed with Stevie during their recuperation and helped her write In Step, a healing and redemption record. Yet the storms continued. The media mentioned Thomas Shannon in the early 2010s, not in music headlines but in federal court records. New Jersey heroin and cocaine trafficker Kuzo was sentenced to 25 years in prison. The same name confused fans, who wondered if it was Tommy Shannon of Double Trouble. The guilty individual was born in 1976, nearly 3 decades younger, according to official documentation. But whispers persisted for years. Tommy never addressed it. He faced it silently, like he had following Stevie Ray Vaughan's death. No explanations, no responses. Nowhere's comprehended. Once restarters would never go back. His life after 1990 confirmed it. Tommy and Kumi shared a little Austin ranch, where they nurtured 4 Trekiner horses, grew plants, played music, and avoided the media. No scandals, kids, or social media. Tommy smiled and answered, "I don't need to tell it," when asked why he hadn't written a memoir or appeared in a documentary about his life like many of his colleagues. "My lifetime bass lines reflect all I've experienced." Tommy Shannon kept low and honest in a world when artists typically slip under the spotlight. His personal life, from love and addiction to calm years, is that of a guy who touched rock bottom and vowed never to return. Legacy and influence. Tommy Shannon didn't create blues. Never tried to redefine it either. He quietly kept it from fading. Even his musical taste changed and the industry became louder and more chaotic. His bass lines were the backbone, steadfast, silent, and irreplaceable for almost 4 decades. Nobody mentions Pride and Joy or Cold Shot without alluding to Stevie Ray Vaughan's bass groove after every guitar note. Stevie may have slipped without Tommy keeping pace, few realize. In life and music, he never played complicatedly. Tommy Shannon's bass taught restraint, understanding when to pull back, hold steady, and let silence speak. He was admired by Pino Palladino, Joe Dart, and Michael Rhodes for playing for the song. How he lived with dignity is also his legacy. Tommy never sought notoriety in a business where bassists are typically ignored. However, his humility earned him lasting respect. Younger blues performers like Kenny Wayne Shepherd, Susan Tedeschi, and Joe Bonamassa wanted him in the studio because he made their music feel correct. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted Tommy Shannon, Double Trouble, and Stevie Ray Vaughan in 2015, prompting many to consider his role as Stevie's bassist and steadfast supporter throughout his brief but brilliant career. Tommy helped Stevie into rehab, supported him through recovery, and co-created In Step, their final and possibly most significant album. In a world where bassists felt more than heard, Tommy Shannon's greatest legacy is a quiet acknowledgement. Someone kept every legend together. Tommy was that person. Current life. Tommy Shannon no longer tours or performs nightly like he did during the Double Trouble years at over 80. He hasn't abandoned music. Instead of adulation, he lives in it through modest, private, and meaningful encounters. Tommy and Kumi live on a tiny ranch outside Austin, Texas. They care for their 4 Trakehner horses, drink coffee on the porch, and listen to the prairie grass rustle each morning. No stage or microphone, he plays music in tranquility without recording or performing. But to keep close to oneself. Tommy appeared in several in-depth interviews in 2024, including in the studio with Redbeard, where he revealed little-known details of recording the In Step album. He talked about the spontaneous recording sessions, how freshly sober Stevie Ray Vaughan had rekindled his creative fire, and how he, the bassist, always had to play like I was pulling my friend back from the edge. In the same year, Guitar World featured him dissecting Tightrope's bass structure, which he described as a wire between survival and collapse. Though subtle, their insights moved longtime followers and left younger musicians listening. Tommy will attend the 22nd Stevie Ray Vaughan Memorial in Dallas in October 2024 as an old buddy, not as a headliner. He wanted to play Cold Shot, Texas Flood, and Riviera Paradise with younger musicians to remind everyone that what counts never fades. Besides music, he participated in a personal photography project called A Polaroid a Day, sharing daily occurrences on film. Tommy is still in each photo, but he's no longer playing a bass. He's a serene man after the storm. New albums and promotional tours are absent. His name remains as the anchor of the last great blues generation on professional bassist forums. Young artists discovering the classic sound from Stevie to Clapton always point to him for rock-solid bass lines. If Stevie was the fire, Tommy was the stone that kept it burning, writes one. Tommy may want to be remembered that way, not for his accomplishments, but what he kept through it all. Tommy Shannon left a legacy of blues rock albums when he retired to Texas. His legacy was commitment to music, people, and himself. Not everyone who keeps the rhythm must lead, as his story shows. Some are meant to cry beneath the lights, while others are created to hold everything together. In some cases, the backman keeps the band on track. Tommy Shannon will always be remembered as an artist who lived honestly, played honestly, and walked quietly yet never gave up. The esteem of fellow musicians and the unspoken connection of those who felt in the background are his legacy, not trophies. Your opinions on Tommy Shannon's story? What do those classic Stevie Ray Vaughan albums remind you of? Post your thoughts in the comments. An unspoken bass line can say more than words. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell if you like tales about musicians that live, play, and persevere via music, to avoid missing our future passionate journeys. Thanks for watching. Watch the following video to hear more about folks who lived in the shadows but were never ordinary. Goodbye for now.